NBC's Mike Memoli has been on the trail with the vice president. He's obviously our man for all things Biden these days. Carol, Howard, and Michael are back with me. So, Mike, I guess if the Biden campaign could have planned it, they would have planned for Trump to do nothing but attack Biden off and on for the first week of his candidacy. It seems to be this is the Biden strategy, which is to make it all about Trump.
That's exactly right, Chuck. On the road, when talking to advisors who were traveling with the former vice president, you got the sense that they think every Trump tweet is worth maybe a quarter percentage point in the nomination fight here. That if the entire rationale, or at least the way they're framing his candidacy in the early going, is that his presidency is a national emergency and Joe Biden is the only one who can beat him, then the more that the president draws attention to Biden and seems threatened by his candidacy, or the more Democrats feel threatened by the idea of another 4 years of President Trump, the stronger he's going to do. He's especially concerned, it seems, about the firefighters' endorsement, which is interesting. We saw them out at all the events that the former vice president did this week. You know, if you look at the makeup of the firefighters' union, they're probably the more ideologically diverse of the unions we typically put in the Democratic coalition, and I think the president sees in them a lot of those Obama-Trump voters that he knows he needs to win those Rust Belt states again.
Howard Fineman, I know I'm going right into your wheelhouse here, but I was at an airport with the head of the steel workers. I've talked with the iron workers. I've talked with the carpenters, and they will say unequivocally that Biden is the one guy that might grab. They all admit, all the sort of the bricks and mortar unions all admit that the the white membership males are, there's some Trump voters in there, but that Biden is the one guy that can pull them away. I think Trump knows it.
Of course he knows it. And I would say about the firefighters, first of all, they are a terrifically well-organized and potent force.
They punch above their weight when you think about their membership versus money.
They're everywhere. They're tied into the community. They also wear a uniform, which matters greatly to Donald Trump. They almost single-handedly got John Kerry the Democratic nomination in 2004.
One could argue he was the only union at the time. He was the first union on board. I remember.
I saw them literally
carry
Kerry across the finish line.
And they might do it again for him.
Yeah, but interestingly, the other unions, the brick-and-mortar unions, aren't endorsing yet. They hung back a little bit in Pittsburgh. There were a lot of individual members there. No endorsements yet from them, but the firefighters was very significant because of their clout at the grassroots, and Trump knows it.
Yeah, Trump likes the labor unions.
Oh, he loves the labor unions, and he has relationships with these guys going back to all the work that he's done in New York, et cetera. But I think Howard's put his finger on really what's kind of eating at the president right now, is that the fact that Biden came out of the gate as strong as he did, got the kind of response that he did. Because I think there's this calculation that the Democratic primary process is basically going to, undo Biden. But my bet is that Biden is not running for the future of the Democratic Party. He's not running to be the future of the Democratic Party. He's running the way Trump ran, as a transitional figure. As Trump was a transition from Obama, Biden plays that role of being a transition from Trump, and that's where the future steps in, and I think that's what works.
Restoration versus revolution.
That's it.
Biden's fine with restoration.
He's very fine with restoration.
One of the interesting things is that Trump hasn't landed a punch on him yet. He's really aggressively going after him. We've seen him tweeting and talking about him a lot, but it hasn't had an effect in the sense that usually you'll see the president go in and he'll have a target, and he hits the target pretty well, and he's managed to label them. And part of that is because he's running up against somebody who's already got a brand, who already is well known and has inroads in all these places. And
then I want to bring Mike back in here a minute. The question is, the next level of Biden attacks that are coming from Trump, Rudy Giuliani is telegraphing it. It's clearly Hunter, and in some ways they almost want to create a foreign interference, throw in the Ukrainians and the Russians, and Giuliani has been to the Ukraine. He's got Ukrainian clients. How is Biden? Tell me how Team Biden is prepping for what is obviously coming from Trump very soon, the Hunter Biden attacks.
Yeah, I mean, it's already underway, Chuck. And I think one of the last times you and I talked here, this was one of the factors that we thought might keep the former vice president out of the race. This was something that close family members and close allies of the former vice president worried about how he would react on the campaign trail. And I think for the Trump campaign, this is sort of a dually effective strategy on some level. One, to the extent that they can ever continue to muddy the waters, well, you think Jared and Don Jr. have a problem. Look at Hunter. He also has his problems. That's one potential way of going this. But they also know that, nothing is more abhorrent to the former vice president than attacks on his family. And so there's an element here of potentially getting in the vice president's head. If he wants to stay focused.
That's what I'm wondering.
Exactly. If he stays focused, and I know that they've war gamed this, as part of their preparations for him on the campaign trail, they've sat around and said, what if somebody asks you this on the rope line, or what if there's a heckler talking about Hunter? How do you react? And he performs well in that controlled environment. But this is something that's obviously something that you can't control when you're out there in these early states and in small venues, especially.
Carol, that's why I interrupted you on this. It's like, yes, he has his own brand. Yes, he has all these things.
He has.
How is he going to handle when the Hunter stuff comes?
That's
we don't know.
His biggest vulnerability, and we don't know. And a vulnerability in the sense that family to him, when Obama had picked him as his vice president, he said, if you get me, you get all of us. And there's a bunch of them. Family it's very emotional for him. They've had a rough time. There's a lot of reasons why he would feel very protective about his family. And so, you could see him being drawn into some sort of reaction that casts him in a way that is not favorable. And that's where they're going to try to go.
That's one more way that he and Trump are alike. When you stop and think about it, the way Trump sort of, particularly around Ivanka, and
attack on her, and he gets a little.
Really. So I think there's that vulnerability there. But I would almost suspect on this point, to the point you made, Chuck, that the Biden team kind of have gamed through this, and Biden stepping into this ring, knowing that sort of sword is hanging over his potential campaign head. I think they'll be prepared for it.
Well, sometimes history is a bad guide. I've been around a long time, so I've covered Joe Biden's 2 previous campaigns, and they were terrible. But people do.
It's because they were run by family, and we love our family, but it was almost too insular.
Okay.
That's what I remember.
People do learn, and politics is about timing and context. And you mentioned the machinists and so forth. Joe Biden is like the tool in the toolbox that perfectly fits the job of getting rid of Donald Trump to Democrats. The question isn't whether he's the right instrument for doing it. It's whether he can hold up and stay focused between now and next year. And I think the Trump people are going to try to go after him right away for that specific reason.
Mike, how good do the Biden people feel as if, who do they think is their biggest threat in the primary?
It's interesting. I think it's not an answer I've gotten from his campaign just yet. I mean, they are more worried, I think, just about the general leftward drift of the party. They see him as planting a flag for it. They're more worried, in fact, I think, just about progressive Twitter and the left sort of echo chamber than they are of any specific candidate. They don't want to be drawn into it, as him having to fight that group writ large.
Then he must be happy with moderates like Bullock and Bennett also getting in, suddenly making it a much more, there's progressives, there's moderates, there's all sorts of flavors. Mike Memoli, a rare day in Washington. Good to see you, sir. Thank you. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.